Okay, so this is the first video of chapter 1, and what I want to talk about is solving a linear equation in one variable. There's a series of steps. Step 1 says to simplify both sides of the equation. What that means is clearing out any parentheses, any decimals, fractions, anything like that. Combining any like terms, just making it simpler. Step 2, step 3, step 4 all involve some things that involve the addition, subtraction, property of equality, the multiplication or division property of equality, and then the most important thing is step 5. Step 5 says to check your answers and write the solution set. So I guess the best way to do this is to go ahead and go through several examples. All right. So the first one, you got 8 times b minus 2 plus 3b equals negative 9 times b minus 1. With this one, you should see that the first thing we need to do is we need to clear out those parentheses by doing the distributive property. So you can go 8 times b, which is 8b, and then 8 times negative 2, which is negative 16, plus 3b equals negative 9b, and then negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9. So then the next thing we want to do is polish up the left-hand side. I can see I can combine the 8b and the 3b, and I can make an 11b. So 11b minus 16 is equal to negative 9b plus 9. Now, with this thing, how I work this is if you have variables on both sides, what you want to do is you want to bring the smaller variable to the bigger variable. So the smaller variable is negative 9b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 9b to both sides. So I'm going to add 9b to both sides. Now I have 20b minus 16 equals 9. All right, so now I want to solve for b. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 16 to both sides. So now I have 20b equals 25. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 20. So if I divide both sides by 20, I get 25 divided by 20. Now I can reduce that. I can reduce that to b is equal to 5/4. Now if I plug this back in, I will see that I get the correct answer. Here's one that involves fractions. Now, what I like to do with this is I look at the denominators, and to eliminate the fractions, you have to think of a number that 2, 10, and 5 all have in common. So what number does 2, 10, and 5 all have in common? That's right, it's 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation completely by 10. Okay? And the reason what should happen is then I should eliminate all my fractions. So if we do that, we can see we get negative 10 over 2y plus 40 equals negative 10 over 10y plus 20 over 5. Now when we do that on purpose, because what happens is I get a negative 5y plus 40 equals negative 1y plus 4. So now I'm just back to like we did in the last one. Here we got to figure out which one's bigger, negative 5y or negative 1y. Who's the bigger number? Well, the bigger number, although you may disagree, it is actually negative 1y. So we're going to add 5y to both sides. So now I have 40 equals 4y plus 4. Now I got to solve for that y. So I'm going to subtract 4. I'm going to subtract 4. I get 36 equals 4y. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 4 to get y completely by itself. So y is equal to 9. Okay, so that should be pretty simple, right? Another example could happen is if you, well, here's this one. This one's 3/4 minus 2x over 5 equals 1/2. So in this one, the common number is 20. So I would encourage you to see if you come up with that answer on that one. Well, let's just do it. If we just go ahead and multiply both sides by 20, so then what I have now is I have 60 over 4 minus, that's supposed to be an x, 40 over 5 equals 20 over 2. Now, the 60 over 4, I believe that becomes 15. There's an x supposed to be right there. And then that becomes, I think, minus 8x, and that equals 10. So now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and subtract 15x, or subtract 15, excuse me. I get negative 8x equals negative 5. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 8. So I get x is 5/8. Okay, don't worry, you can leave it as 5/8. It's all good. All right. I think that's good enough for this one. You could probably figure out that you're going to multiply by a 10. Here, let's look at one. This one seems a little bit confusing, but really, if I had to rewrite this one could be rewritten as 1/2. Well, you know what? Never mind. We'll just do this. What's the common number between 2, 3, and 5? I believe it's 30, right? So I believe it's 30. So if you multiply both sides of this equation by 30, multiply both sides of these equations by 30, then you get something that looks, it's going to look crazy, but here we go. Check it out. You get 90x over 2 minus 210 over 2 plus 90 over 3 minus 150x over 3 is equal to 90 over 5 minus 180x over 5. What does that do? That breaks this first one down to 45x. I believe this makes it negative 105. I think that's a plus a 30. I think that's going to be minus a 50 with the x coming down. And then 90 over 5, I believe, is 18 minus 36x. Okay, and you should be able to take it from there. If you don't see it right now, what you can do is you can combine that 45x and that negative 50x and that 105 and that 30, and you can get negative 5x minus 75 is equal to, here you get 18 minus 36x. Okay, and you've done this before, so go ahead and see if you can get the answer on this one. I'll tell you right now that the answer you should get x equals 3. So from there, see if you can handle it, and if you can't, we'll talk about it in class. Another example would be here. Here you have decimals. For this, you can eliminate decimals because if you look at this, the biggest digit you have is a tenth. So if I multiply everything by 10, that is, multiply both sides by 10, okay, then I get 20, I believe I get 20, or excuse me, I get 2x minus 30 equals 13x minus 14, because it eliminates all of your decimals, so it makes it easier on you to do this. And so if you take care of this one, I'm going to subtract 2x. Subtract 2x, I get negative 30 equals 11x minus 14. So I'm going to add 14. I'm going to add 14. I believe I get negative 16 equals 11x. So then I divide both sides by 11. So x is negative 16 over 11. Simple enough, correct? Awesome. All right, so to kind of close this out a little bit here, we're going to say for a student's first semester at college, the college charges $105 per credit hour plus a one-time $50 admissions fee. The cost C for the first semester is given by that equation, where H is the number of credit hours taken. If a student is billed $14.15, how many credit hours is she taking? Now, what do we do with that $14.15? What is that? That's the cost. So you put $14.15 in here, and then all you now have is just a real simple equation, right? So you subtract 50 and divide by 105. So if we subtract 50, we get 1365, and that's equal to 105H. And then we want to go ahead and we want to divide by 105. So 1365 divided by 105 is what? I believe it is 6. So is she carrying 6 credit hours, I guess? Or 6, what is it? Yeah, 6 credit hours, I guess. Okay. I'm sorry, not 6 credit hours. That's not that. That's actually, sorry, 13. I'm not very good at math, so it's 13 credit hours. Okay. So this is going to be part one of 2 parts. I wanted to kind of keep this video under 10 minutes, so we're about there now. Stay tuned for the next video.